Our top focus tonight, some hope has been instilled among home buyers waiting for delivery of their homes for real estate companies in Delhi NCR. Particularly, with real estate regulators coming into being in states and union territories, laws are being strictly implemented to fix accountability on defaulting builders, and the judiciary too is taking a serious view of violations. Recently, directors of 2 real estate companies in Delhi NCR have been arrested as part of a major crackdown against defaulting builders. Here's more.
Home buyers waiting for years, some over a decade, to get their promised homes from real estate developers is a common occurrence in Delhi NCR. Government, real estate authorities and courts are stepping up the heat on unscrupulous developers. The courts have recently hauled several real estate developers in Delhi NCR over the coals. The noose has tightened around 2 real estate developers in Delhi NCR in the last few days for allegedly diverting funds received from buyers and not delivering their flats in time. The Economic Offences Wing of Delhi Police arrested Atul Gupta, director of Earth Galleria. He has been accused of defrauding buyers. This action comes close on the heels of the arrest of 3 directors of 3C real estate company. In recent times, real estate majors like Amrapali, JP, Supertech and Unitech have faced the ire of the judiciary, and in some cases their top echelons have been put in police custody. In the last few years, several cases have come to the fore of buyers being allegedly duped by builders. Thousands of buyers are facing inordinate delays in handing over of homes by builders. In 2016, the Parliament passed the Real Estate Regulation and Development Act that seeks to protect the interests of home buyers and boost investment in the real estate sector. It makes it mandatory for each state and union territory to form a regulator and frame rules that will govern the functioning of the regulator. While this has instilled faith in home buyers, challenges remain.
मैंने एक फ्लैट आम्रपाली लेजर वैली में बुक करवाया हुआ है जो कि ग्रेटर नोएडा वेस्ट में आता है। मेरे जैसे हजारों घर खरीदार जो कि यहाँ पे इन्वेस्ट किए हुए थे और जिन्हें अब तक फ्लैट नहीं मिला है, वो लोग बहुत परेशान हैं। और रेरा से हमें काफ़ी उम्मीद थी, बट रेरा को काफ़ी सशक्त और बनाने की ज़रूरत है। हाल के दिनों में कुछ उसमें बदलाव किए जा रहे हैं या जैसे कमेटियां बन रही है, लोगों से राय लिया जा रहा है, तो उम्मीद है कि आगे आने वाले समय में रेरा और मजबूत होकर उभरेगा।
While real estate regulatory authorities in various states and union territories are trying to redress the complaints of home buyers against builders, action has injected transparency in the realty business and forced builders to keep their commitments mentioned in the builder-buyer agreements. But even now, some projects are running behind schedule or are stalled.
जो हमने जो बैंक की EMI दे रखी है पिछले 8 सालों से, जो हमारे फ्लैट नहीं बन रहे, जो हमारे फ्लैट आगे फ्यूचर में भी चांसेस बहुत कम है, वो हमारी जो EMI है वो हमारे को रिफंड करी जाए। एक और इसमें पॉइंट है कि जो रेरा है उसका एग्जीक्यूशन नहीं हो पाता। अगर ऑर्डर पास हो भी जाता है तभी उसका एग्जीक्यूशन नहीं हो पाता। इसके ऊपर भी एक कोई सोल्यूशन चाहिए। हम चाहते हैं कि एक सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट और बायर की कोई कमेटी बने और मिलकर इसका कोई प्रॉब्लम का सोल्यूशन निकाला जाए।
Efforts are on to ensure that home buyers get their promised homes. In UP, the state government, Noida Authority and Greater Noida Industrial Development Authority are working in that direction. Agencies like NBCC have come forward to complete unfinished projects. This has led to hope that stalled projects would get completed sooner than later. Bureau Report, DD News.
And that brings us to our In Focus tonight, which is news titans around unscrupulous real estate developers. To talk about that, we have with us Rajiv Kumar, chairman of UP Rera. He joins us from Lucknow. VenketRao, a Rera expert, is with us really in the studio, and Piyush Singh, advocate Supreme Court, is also with us. I'll begin with you, Mr. Singh, on what really is the extent of the problem that we are looking at. When we see one project, in one project alone, thousands of home buyers are involved. So if you talk about the whole Delhi NCR region, other metros as well as tier 2 and tier 3 cities, what is the extent of the problem across the country?
The problem, I would say, is very grave for a very simple reason. According to a very recent estimate, in Delhi NCR alone, there are 14 lakh units, or I would say 14 lakh families awaiting possession of the unit which is delayed, or I must say grossly delayed. So in India, I would say there would be easily more than 20 to 30 lakh units which are going beyond possession or delay period. Now the problem is not only with respect to the families. Real estate sector is one of the most important sector for the economy. So it's again a huge problem for the economy on a whole. Now the kind of problems the real estate sector, the home buyers are facing is, I would say, manifolds. One of them is delay possession. wherein they had booked the unit 2009, 10, 11, and till date they are yet to see the possession. The second problem is that in case somebody is seeking refund because of the lack of qualities or the infrastructure offered by the builder is below what was there in the brochure or prospectus, there is no refund happening right now. There are several projects which have been abandoned now. You would see concrete jungles when we are talking about Noida and Gurgaon, concrete jungles being there with no work happening actually on ground, and banks and the authorities have raised their dues, so no work actually happening on ground, and we only see concrete jungles. So that's the problem number 3. So all those taken together, I would say the problem is very huge and very grave problem for the economy and also for the home buyers.
Okay, Mr. Rao, he's listed out the problems in a larger context that the home buyers face across the country. Since the Rera Act was passed by Parliament, and since then we've seen that many states and union territories have come up with Rera and they have notified their rules as well. What has changed since then?
Well, for one, they have a quicker recourse. We are seeing, especially in, as Piyush was rightly pointing out, especially in NCR region, where with the UP Rera being active, with Haryana Rera being active, you see a quicker and a much quicker response to the refund problem, or even to a certain extent some regulatory action happening. So while you can't bring in everything in one shot, and probably there would be a magic wand Rera would do away with all the ills or evils that have been happening over the years, but yes, there is at least a focused approach now. There is a planned strategic manner. Even the regulators, if we have Rajiv Ji with us, and he would actually be elaborating on how they're looking at it from the perspective that yes, moving forward, at least this kind of a mess should not happen. And probably with the current scenario, buyers do feel that there is somebody to whom they can approach in case of some kind of a bad situation happening. So let's see. I mean, probably it may take a little more time, but probably yes, we are on the track.
Okay. Rajiv Kumar, in the context of Uttar Pradesh, have things improved since the Rera was formed?
Thank you very much. Things have started to change, as has been just pointed out by both Mr. Singh as well as Mr. Rao. We have almost 2,500 projects which have been registered under Rera. I think the issues relate to two parts. One is, as been pointed out, going forward. I think given the provisions of the Act, where a project can only be taken up once all the approvals are in place, substantial advance, nobody can take advance of more than 10%. And there is a provision of 70% amount going to the escrow to be withdrawn with stage development. I think this act is very powerful in ensuring that going forward we have much more transparent and streamlined system. And all the declarations and approvals have to be done and a registration taken from RERAs. The second part of the issue, which is now facing in a very large extent in the NCR region, which includes Noida, Greater Noida and surrounding areas of Haryana. There are essentially three types of projects which are there. The first projects are where things are moving in an orderly fashion, which is about 25% of the projects. Then almost 50% of the projects, after an audit we have come to this conclusion, are such where we can all get together to ensure that there are no further slippages in terms of time and they can be retrieved. The last bucket, which is the 25%, is where substantial amount of work will happen. The first impact of RERA has been that once everybody is aware that there is a forum of a quick recourse, as Mr. Venkat had pointed out, a lot of solutions are coming, and both the buyers and the builders are coming forward, and we are taking up almost 150 cases every day, and we do hear a number of buyers coming and mentioning that they have got the possession of their flat or their problem has been resolved. Having said that, I think we are working on 3-4 dimensions. One dimension is that wherever the promoter is willing to take up these projects in right earnest, we are looking for formation of a joint committee where there would be a representative from home buyers, from the builders, and also a representative, kind of a referee from Rera. And such orders are being passed by UP Rera at this moment. This will ensure that whatever is promised are delivered in a very timely fashion. There are also some cases where the promoters themselves, all being under pressure for various reasons, which have just been mentioned, they are coming up with co-developers and coming up with other mechanism of financing the project so that it can be delivered in a time-bound fashion.
Okay. Rajiv Kumar, I wanted to ask you that what is the most common complaint that you get from home buyers really against the developers, and also are you telling us that the level of compliance is very low insofar as 25% of the developers are concerned?
There is a bucket which would need more intensive exercise. As I had mentioned, that we have detailed audit report of these almost 100 project reports already with us. We have also issued some 12 notices for diversion of funds, as has come out in the notices. So that part is being taken care. But as I said, the last bucket will take a little more time and effort, for which we are now completely geared up. And as has been mentioned, that there are some major cases which are either with the Honorable Supreme Court or with NCLT, and the resolution there will be a guiding force for us. The problems are basically of 3 types. One is of delayed possession. Substantial number of buyers would like to get their flat.
Absolutely.
There is the second bucket where people would want to move out of the project and get a refund with their due interest.
Fair enough.
So we are ultimately issuing notices if orders like this are passed.
Okay.
And ultimately recovery certificates are also being issued for recovery of money. We have paid about 3.2 crores already to various home buyers by this methodology. And the third, of course, relates to incomplete projects, or what was promised has not been fully delivered, and issues like that.
Fair enough. Mr. Kumar, before I come again to you, I wanted a word from you, Mr. Rao, that there are reports that keep emerging about the pendency of complaints in RERAs across states and union territories. Is that something that needs to be looked at in a more focused manner?
You see, the thing was that this was, pent-up thing which is coming up. At least today they have a forum, and then the forums are now flooded. Unfortunately, there was a forum in the form of a court or a consumer courts we had in place, but they were already overcrowded. So lots of complaints that you see today, being a very summary and simple procedure, and then you can actually file it. So therefore, there is a huge lot of complaints coming in, and the authorities are newly established. They need infrastructure, they need the kind of manpower that needs to tackle. So that is where we are having some bit of piled up complaints. But one should really appreciate UP is on fast track, Haryana is on fast track, which are the most affected areas, I would say. So we are seeing cleaning up of matters. And another thing that Rajivji was just mentioning, the model that you were talking of a joint effort. We in fact just now recently, about a week ago, I could get a wonderful order of cooperative kind of a thing, wherein the developer would have one nominee and 2 nominees would be from the buyer's side. It's about 100 odd people getting together, at least now trying to complete their project, which was almost stuck for 3 years. So the same way, the audit thing that he was saying, we were associated with the audit. So I could tell you from that angle also, to find and focus and try to find where the monies have gone or what has happened with them is another exercise which the authorities are taking up and moving forward.
Absolutely.
So,
we'll come
yes,
to that how is the fund really being monitored in the Rera regime. But I want to take up the same thing with you, Mr. Singh, that in most of the cases we are seeing that projects are incomplete because funds have been diverted elsewhere. They've even been diverted to some other projects or to shell companies, and which is why the project delivery is not happening on time. How many cases that you have come across in the Supreme Court as well as other courts which have this problem of fund diversion, and what is really the way forward that you see in the proceedings that you see in courts on such issues?
I must say that most of the projects which are incomplete, one of the primary reasons was fund diversion. And that was again the primary reason why Rera has an escrow account now for 70% of the money to be kept in the escrow account. Because if there would not have been a diversion of funds, ideally we would expect that when a home buyer is paying 95% of the total value of the flat, the project should have been completed if the funds were not diverted. So in all these cases, if you look prima facie, the only obvious thing which comes is that the funds have been diverted. Now Supreme Court, when you say that, has led 3 landmark judgments, and we have been part of all 3. One was Unitech, second is Amrapali, and third is JP. So Supreme Court has dealt with all the 3 cases, I would say, with different yardsticks, and have beautifully also laid down that how maybe these problems can be looked into in future. With JP Infratech, when going into insolvency, Supreme Court made them deposit 700 crores and then send it back to NCLT Allahabad for restructuring of the company. For Amrapali, Supreme Court ordered for a forensic audit and also looked into how these projects could be completed by NBCC or from a third partner. With respect to Unitech, Supreme Court has got a portal in place wherein the home buyers are asked whether they want a refund or a possession. So Supreme Court is trying to innovate, I would say, things, and trying to be a medium that how this chaos in the market could be catered to, because eventually when we look into the market, the real question is what will happen to these projects which are not incomplete. And as we were rightly discussing, and the news item did show, that the government is taking stern action. The EOW cell recently arrested few of the directors of the leading company. Though yes, definitely the law should take its own course when it comes to taking criminal action or arrest. But I think yes, definitely I would say medium have to be found out in such cases, wherein amicably, or I would say builders and the buyers have to sit together, come together to have these projects being resolved.
Okay. Rajiv Kumar, on an average, what is the pendency that is there in UP Rera? Also, in terms of solutions for the way forward, what are the possible models that the Rera also can possibly suggest to various authorities? For instance, the NBCC model we saw under the directions of the Supreme Court being implemented in several cases, Amrapali for one. What is the way forward really in terms of solutions that you as a UP Rera head look at?
Taking the first question first, I think we have about 40-45 cases coming in every day, which is almost 2.5 times of what the situation was 3-4 months ago. So it seems that there is growing faith in this system. We have about 8,500 odd cases pending with us. There has been almost 2,500 cases have been disposed of. And we are very hopeful that by January we should be in a position to take care of the backlog. And thereafter we'll be more comfortable, as Mr. Rao has mentioned, that infrastructure and all other things are completely in place now. There are various models to complete. Getting back to the audit which I had mentioned and Mr. Rao also, there is an analysis of all the projects. There are a large number of projects which are either by themselves or through the group are cash positive. So retrieving these projects should not be a problem. It's only a matter where everybody has to sit down and ensure that whatever money comes in is utilized for completion of the projects first. The second part is, in many cases the promoters are not able to raise additional finances. They are looking at NBFCs, they are looking at financial institutions, they are also looking at co-developers, which is in fact the model of NBCC coming in. So they are also making efforts, and there is a specific provision in the Rera Act where the first right of refusal can be given to the RWAs to complete the project. and failing which the Rera can order a co-developer through an authority in consultation with the government to complete the project. Thirdly, we have found that in some cases we have even ordered this 70% going to escrow to move up to 90% till the backlog is completed, with the intention that more money can come through for completion of the stuck projects. So there are various lines of action, and in this case I am happy to say that the buyers themselves are also coming up with a number of solutions. And so are the promoters.
Okay.
So we are very
Is there
hopeful
a constant
that in the next
monitoring
3-4
of
months.
compliance by the UP Rera of real estate developers' claims?
The process is very simple. We appoint a concurrent auditor and also joint committees, as mentioned, of the buyers, of the promoters, and a representative from Rera and our development authorities, which is Greater Noida and Yamuna Authority. So this model seems to be working at this moment.
Okay. Piyush Singh, you know, when news emerges about the arrests of directors of various real estate firms, when it is reported that there are top echelons really of these real estate companies which are really feeling the heat, does that instill a sense of faith among the home buyers, and is there a deterrent effect as well?
It should really have. One, for a very simple reason, that no one is above the law. So irrespective, it is a financial transaction. So the builders have been for long being saying that these are majorly consumer disputes. There is a delay, so you go to consumer courts or you go to Rera courts. But even siphoning of funds would amount to cheating, and any document created qua siphoning of funds would be forgery. And definitely when all other means and mechanism fails, I would say the best deterrent in the Indian judicial system is imprisonment. But I would say this is not the only means, and this may also lead to frustration of the ends of justice. At times, yes, it is necessary and law should take its own course. And eventually all of us wants, when anything wrong happens in the society, we want the culprits to be booked for and should be, I would say, fair trial happens. But we should also look into the larger picture. So I would say a balancing act would have to be done by the government and also by the authorities in such scenarios, because equally I would say when it comes to, for example, Noida for that matter, most of the land was allotted by the authority at 10% price, and the rest of the amount was not recovered by the authority for a considerable period of time. So I would say we can't blame even one segment of the buyer, or I would say people in this particular case.
Okay. Now, Mr. Rao, your views on what should be the way forward really, because we've seen the government taking initiatives like Rera. We never had a real estate regulator before. We also saw the government take corrective action. There was an amendment that was brought to the IBC, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, after it came to the fore, that how to an extent the interests of home buyers could have been compromised in the original version of the law. So what more do you think needs to be done to protect the interests of home buyers?
Well, while IBC's amendment, unfortunately, I totally am with it, but I may not totally agree with it, in the sense that what has happened is it has created a clash to a certain extent, in the sense that even a single home buyer with a certain this thing, now we were focusing on actually completion of projects and delivery of homes. But unfortunately, there is a clash that need to be sorted out. As you have said, moving forward, what should be the way forward? Because there is a lot of pain in the markets, and a lot of people even today would like to have their homes. Nobody wants just a refund. It just is not possible that everybody gets a refund. So to save their monies, moving forward, we need to devise these mechanisms whereby there should be a cooperative effort, some kind of last mile funding need to be done. And yes, while the punitive action, as rightly pointed out by Piyush, is required, but at the same time, in the larger interest, we have to look at how this problem can be, in a cooperative fashion, can be moved ahead, whether there is a possibility of somebody else taking over wherever there is value, whether there could be a cooperative effort between the RWAs and the other stakeholders. That is the only way forward. I think we are moving slowly, but yes, certainly.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rajiv Kumar, VenketRao and Piyush Singh, for having joined us on Newsnight tonight. So the crisis definitely has gargantuan proportions, but at the same time, a multi-pronged approach is being used to address this crisis. The bottom line is that the interests of home buyers who have invested their lifetime's savings into the dream of buying a home should be protected. We'll take a break at this point in time and be back with more news.